going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In this video today, I'm going to break down how you can buy a new house without selling your current home you're living in right away, and that's coming up right after this. And welcome back to the channel that's all about real estate. My name is Alex, and if this is your first time tuning into my YouTube channel, welcome. I post a couple videos a week, at least one video a week. So if you want to learn more about real estate, hit that subscribe button down there. And hey, if you get any value out of these videos, hit that like button as well. Now on to the video you're waiting for. This whole video today is going to be dedicated to how you out there can buy a new house and then put your house on the market, okay, and then take the proceeds from that sale of your house and then be in contract with that new house and buy that new house. So ultimately, you don't need to sell your home first. There are other ways around it if you need to list your house later and get in contract with a new house. Let me explain. Going back a couple videos ago, I made a video on contingent versus pending. So this would be a scenario where you would be a contingent home buyer, meaning you would be contingent on your home selling first because you would need the proceeds from that first house, your current home you're living in order to buy that next home that you want to move up into, or whatever the case is. You're in contract for a new home, you want to buy the home, but you can't afford it unless you sell your current home. Pretty straightforward, right? Well, let me go into more detail. Let me pull up the form that I would have to use as a real estate agent, and it's Form 22B, and let me kind of outline it so that you have a better understanding of some of the timelines and different criteria you need to meet if you want to become a contingent buyer and sell your property and wait for that sale in order to close on that next property. All right, so let's pull it up on the screen right now. So the Form 22B, contingent on sale of buyer's property. At the top of the form, this is all standard. Right, we're gonna put in the buyer's, seller's name, the address. Line number 1, this agreement is contingent on buyer selling buyer's property. Okay, this would be the property that you're living in. On or before, and you would have to put a date in there. The default is 45 days after mutual acceptance of this agreement. Buyer, now this one's important, guys. Buyer shall list buyer's property for sale on the multiple listing service in the area serving the property with a licensed real estate firm within 5 days of mutual acceptance of this agreement. Okay, so this agreement would be the agreement to buy the new house that you really like, right? So now, once that is in mutual agreement, meaning buyer and seller come to an agreement, everyone signs it, right? It's legally binding. That's mutual acceptance. You would have 5 days from there to list your property. So essentially, you would need to be ready to list your property. That's what some people don't understand, is there are a timeline, right? You can't just wait forever, because that seller on the other end of the deal, right, they're taking a risk because you still have to sell your house, you still have to find a buyer, you still have to go through escrow and close on the house, right? So there has to be strict timelines. Now you can cross this 5 days off. I've seen it before on one of the deals we've done on new construction. They crossed off the 5 days, and I think they put 20 or 30 days, and that was just a scenario where the house wasn't quite completed yet. So that was a little bit different scenario. But the default for this is 5 days. Now let's keep scrolling down on the 22B. Let's go to line number 2. When seller's consent is required on the sale of buyer's property. So this is when you have to get consent from the seller if these things happen. Buyer must obtain seller's written consent before buyer accepts any offer of the sale of buyer's property that is contingent on the sale or closing of that second buyer's property. So essentially what this is saying is if you get a purchase sale on the current home that you're in, if that purchase and sale is contingent, you would need to get written consent from the seller in order to accept that. The second one is has a closing date less than 30 or more than 60 days from the date of mutual acceptance of the offer on the buyer's property. So essentially, if you find a buyer for the current home that you're in and the closing date that they put on the purchase and sale is less than 30 days or more than 60 days, you just need to get consent from the seller for whatever reason. Maybe if it's more than 60 days, maybe the seller doesn't want to wait that long. Maybe if it's less than 30 days, that doesn't give the seller enough time. So that's kind of what I feel like why they put that in there. and you just need to get the seller's consent before proceeding with that current buyer on your current home. Let's keep going down. So number 3, I won't go into deep detail. It's pretty standard loan application. You just have to submit for your loan application within 5 days of mutual acceptance. That's all standard. Now let's keep going down. Number 4, property remains on the market. Okay, so the seller, once you become a mutual agreement, that seller will put their property as contingent on the Northwest listing service. Basically what this means is that they can still accept another offer and bump you out, right? Contingent isn't a solidified, this house is gonna close, and no deal is a solidified, this is gonna close. But let me kind of read more in depth about this. So basically it says, the seller is gonna keep that property contingent until the seller has received notice that the buyer has satisfied or waived this contingency. If prior to that time seller accepts another offer, seller shall give notice to buyer and shall give buyer, the default is 5 days or by the expiration of the contingency in paragraph 1, whichever is earlier, the bump period to waive or satisfy this contingency. If buyer does not timely waive or satisfy this contingency, this agreement shall terminate and the earnest money shall be refunded back to buyer. Seller's notice shall be on the bump notice form 44 or similar form, and buyer's reply should be on the bump reply form 46 or similar form. What this means is if that seller gets a new offer, and they're like, you know what? We actually want to take this offer. It's better. Maybe it's lower closing date. Maybe it's all cash. Whatever the case might be, maybe they want to take that offer. They would submit a bump notice to the buyer, say that I'm representing the buyer that's trying to sell their current home. Okay, now that buyer would need to satisfy that contingency within 5 days or that agreement would terminate. So essentially they would need to satisfy their sale of property contingency in order to proceed with the deal. One more thing I want to touch on, and I won't go too in depth, but say you are the buyer, right? So you're trying to buy the new property, you're the one who's selling your current home, and say that you get a bump notice from that seller. They received another offer. How a bump notice works is that you're gonna have to satisfy some of your contingencies to make your offer look better, right? In some cases, you might satisfy all your contingencies, and this puts you at a great risk if you don't close on the property because you're gonna have to forfeit your earnest money, whatever the amount of earnest money is. Normally it's a percent of the purchase price, which can be a substantial amount of money. If we're talking about higher price points, $500,000, that's $5 grand. $1 million, that's $10,000. So, it can be a substantial amount of money. So there are some risk with, doing the 22B. I've done it before. It's, can be very easy and smooth. And it just kind of depends on how the whole flow goes with everything, with doing open houses, getting an offer on that first property. But what I wanted to let you guys know is that it is possible, right? A lot of people don't even know. You can go out, shop for a house, and then put your house on the market 5 days later. That's the timeline that you need to know. 5 days, you have to put your house on the market. So before you actually go out looking out for a house, you need to make sure your house is ready to go. You've already talked with the real estate agent. You probably already got photos. In most cases, you wouldn't even wait the 5 days. You would just put your house on the market and go out and start looking for properties to buy. All right, guys, hopefully you liked this video. Hopefully you got some value out of this video, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks.